Throughout this mini-series, I'll show you how to create an advanced race system for your Roblox game. This system will prompt each player to join the race. The player with the most speed will win and be rewarded. This system is brilliant for any game which involves increasing player speed, such as a speed simulator. I will be assuming you have your own speed system before watching this video. Check out my speed simulator series if not. If you missed the last video, please check it out or you cannot complete this video. The link will be in the description to the previous video. Let's get into it. Today we'll create a working timer and make our prompt buttons work. Before we start, click on the race GUI we made, so under race system. Click on that, make sure under view you've got the properties window enabled just here, and turn off reset on spawn. We want to disable that. This will stop the GUI disappearing when the player dies. Now inside our race system folder, we want to add a remote event. Right click and rename this and call it dismiss. We'll use this to tell the server that a player does not want to join the race. In the same location, add a module script and rename it to RaceModule. Open this up. So if you're not too familiar with a module script, basically it's a script that can be accessed by both server and client scripts, and it's sort of a, think of it as a middle point, a sort of accessing point for server and client to communicate. So we're going to rename the module to RaceModule, and because we've done that, we need to return RaceModule. We just need to update that. And in this table here, the RaceModule table, we're going to create a timer variable, and by default we'll set it to 0. And this will create our timer. This will be the time until the next race. And we also need to create a function. So just below this table here, for the return statement, we'll say function RaceModule.startTimer. This is how you'll create a timer on a module. We can say RaceModule.timer equals 30. And this will set the initial length of the timer in seconds. So this is the length of the timer in seconds. So obviously if you don't want 30 seconds, you would do 60, whatever you want. It can be anything. But this is the time the players have to decide if they want to join the race or not. Now we'll count this down. So while this RaceModule.timer is greater than 0, we want to count it down. Do wait 1 second. RaceModule.timer minus equals 1. If the timer is above 0, we want to decrease it by 1 every second to show that timer actually decreasing. Now we can actually close this module script. We're not going to need it open again. We are done with that for today. Back into server script service, our race system, which I've got disabled here because I was doing some testing after the video. In our RaceSystem script here, we need to handle any server-side functionality. First thing we need to do after the race GUI, we need to get our module script and our dismiss remote event that we created. So I'll say dismiss RE for remote event equals RaceSystem wait for child dismiss, and this will wait for the dismiss remote event to exist. And I'll also say module equals require RaceSystem wait for child race module. And this will get the module script. Whenever we get a module script, we have to use this require keyword here, the required method, and this will load up our module script so we can access everything inside of it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is update our GUI timer. So we want the timer label text to tick down every single second, and we want to format it in terms of minutes, seconds, or you can just format it as seconds, it's up to you, but I'm going to do minutes, seconds, because we will be using that for the race itself. So let's do this in a function. So let's drop down after our spawn GUI and say function update GUI timer. In here we can say for I, v in pairs, similar to this players into the players we did up here. We can say GUI clones do, and this will go through each clone in GUI clones. So remember last video we made this table called GUI clones, which will hold the GUI for each player, and you can sort of see why we're going to have this now, because we're going to loop through each clone in that table, and then we're going to format any text to be the timer. So next we can say if v find first child background, then so if the background exists, which it should do, but it's just good to have these checks in place, because if we go to replicated storage, our race system, the race GUI, background here, so when you're doing find first child background, rename background to whatever the name of this frame is. If you've named it something else, like race background, this will be race background. you want to name this exactly, capitalization perfectly correct, what is under the race GUI. And now we just need to update the text. So we can say v.background.timer.text equals string.format. And now this is going to look a bit confusing. What I'll do is I'll just write it out and I'll explain it after. So bear with me a second. Percentage 02i colon percentage 02i. And we need to put this in a string as well, so put the quotation marks around it. Comma, module.timer /60, comma, module.timer percentage 60. And this looks quite confusing. Let me just zoom out a little bit here so you can see it a bit easier. So this updates the timer text and it formats it in minutes, seconds. So we're going to have, say, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Mine will just be 30 seconds, so it'll be 0 minutes, 30 seconds. If you just want to do seconds, you'd just do that. That'd be, and then you'd get rid of this here. So this would be 30 seconds. But think of it as minutes, seconds, minutes, seconds. And if you did hours, you'd just do this again. So you'd have your race wouldn't be an hour, but if it was, for example, you'd have another one of these. So you'd have hour, minutes, seconds, and then you'd have module.timer. I think you'd have /3600 for hours, /60 for minutes. Off the top of my head, it's something like that, because you'd square the 60. So that's all that does, is just formats it. The percentage 02i, so 02. So I means that we are putting a number into the string. It's the format specifier for a number. The percentage just means that we're using a format specifier. So anything after the comma will be replaced with the I here and the percentage. So if we had 10 instead of module.timer /60, this percentage 02i would be replaced with 10. It's just an easy way of putting numbers and variables into your strings without hard typing them in. The 02 just means how many digits we're going to display. So we're going to display 2 digits because it only goes up to 60 seconds. We're not going to, have 100 seconds. So we only need to, if we had 3 digits, it'd be 03, which would display as 060. We only need 030, sorry, but we only need 30. So we can just do 02. So it's only going to display 2 digits. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Next, we'll do the dismiss remote event. I know we've not fired this yet, but we may as well get it out the way now. So this remote event will close the player that dismissed the race. It will close their GUI. So we can say dismiss remote event, the on server event :connect function. We need the player and we need their GUI. So we can say local index equals table.find GUI clones and the GUI. So what this is doing is we're looking for the GUI, the player's GUI that's dismissed the race, and we're finding its position, hence the index. We're finding its position inside of the GUI clones table. If the GUI does exist within that table, so if index then, if it doesn't exist, index will just be null or nil. Then we need to remove it. So table.remove, and we'll remove them from not decided, which is a table we haven't made yet. We'll make it in just a second. And table.find, not decided, player. And table.remove, GUI clones, index. Just like so, and then we'll destroy their GUI :destroy. So I know we haven't made this not decided yet, so it looks a bit confusing. Let's go make that now. So at the top, just under our GUI clones, I'll say not decided equals and an empty table. And this will be a table of all the players that haven't decided. So they either haven't joined the race or haven't dismissed it yet. They're waiting, the server is waiting on their result. And that is sort of why we are calling this in the first place, because we need to remove the player's GUI and the player from these 2 tables. So that is why we have to dismiss it on the server anyway. And of course, we are now looking, if you see here, we're looking to find the player inside the not decided table. So we can sort of guess that this not decided table, rather than being a table of GUIs, is going to be a table of players. So we need to add the player to this table. But when would we do that? Well, the best place to do that would be in the spawn GUI. So when we're spawning all the GUI inside the player, we may as well do table.insert, not decided, and the player, because we want to add the player to that table, and that's the perfect place to do that. Now we are nearly done with this script. We have two more things to do. I'm just going to change and improve our while wait function. Now I did say I'd be building on this each video, and that's why we're doing it. I did sort of explain that last episode. So every second we want to check if the module timer is greater than 0. So if module.timer is greater than 0, then if that timer is greater than 0, then we will check if the GUI is shown. So let me cut that and paste that in there. And once all the GUI is spawned in, every second we'll call the update GUI timer function, and this will update the GUI timer every second. Now we have done a lot, so it is worth now just testing. So if I hit test and play, nothing's going to happen. And the reason for that is because we need to start the timer. We haven't actually called the start timer function yet. Now if we just did module.startTimer like this, it's not going to work. And the reason for that is because we're calling this function on the module, what it's going to do is, obviously that function has a while loop in it. So it's going to do that while. If I just open it up, it's going to run this code all the time until that timer is less than or equal to 0. So until it breaks out of this while loop. So for 30 seconds, it's going to be running this, but it's going to pause this script while that's running. So that means none of this while wait is going to run until this timer has reached 0, which is no good. We want them to both run simultaneously. The best way of doing that is probably coroutines. So a coroutine just basically allows you to call another function or run another bit of code at the same time as another bit of code. So we can run this script at the same time as running the start timer function by using a coroutine. So to do that, we can say local start timer equals coroutine dot create module dot start timer. Now we don't need the open and close parentheses after this, we just need the name of the function, and it needs to be the name exactly. So you can see my start timer has a lowercase s, capital T. Make sure you've got that exact same. You can just go and copy this and paste it in here just to be sure. And now that's created a coroutine to call the start timer function while still running this script simultaneously. We can now say coroutine dot resume start timer to start the coroutine. And now if we hit test and play, once my 10 seconds is up, because if you remember I added that 10 seconds to test it on a local server. So once this 10 seconds is up, we'll see what happens. There we go, the GUI appears and the text is updating. Our buttons still don't do anything, but we're going to fix that in just a second. Let's see what happens when it gets down to 0 seconds. The timer should stop and it will just stop at 0. Let's have a look. Here we go. So 3, 2, 1. Perfect. So it gets to 1 second, sorry, and it stopped. So the reason it stops at 1 is because it's got this greater than 0 again. So it's going to get to 1. Then the timer is obviously greater than 1, so we're going to wait 1 second, remove it. So the timer is now 0. Now we go back to here, and because this timer is greater than 0, but the timer itself is 0, but we're checking if it's greater than 0, this isn't going to run this update timer here. We don't want to change this to greater than or equal to 0, because at 0 seconds, we're not going to want to run the functionality we're going to add in future videos, but it won't be a problem. Because this runs every second anyway, when this timer gets to 0, soon we're going to implement the features required to actually start the race. So once they're implemented, the 1 second won't matter, because it's going to do it anyway. You're not going to see it get to 0, but it's going to wait a second, then teleport everyone. Or then start the race even. Now we can close both of these scripts up. And finally, we need to make our buttons work. So let's find the join button in our race GUI, just here. Add a local script inside of it. In this local script, I'm going to say local players equals game : get service players. And local player, or PLR I'm going to use for short, is players.localPlayer. We'll also get the buttons, so local button is script.parent, because the parent of the script is the join button. So this will get the button for easy access. We can then say button.mouse button one click, which is left click, : connect function. And left click will also call if the button's touched on mobile. Button.parent.dismiss button. So we want to get the button, which is the join button. The parent is the background, and then we want the dismiss button, which is button dot parent, so the background dot dismiss button, colon destroy. So we want to remove it from the player. And then we'll also say button colon destroy straight after this, and this will destroy the two buttons, because if they if they join the game, we want to still keep the rest of it with the timer, because the timer is going to change to the race text when the race starts. You'll see what I mean in a few videos time. So we want to keep that. We will also teleport the players here, or call a remote event to teleport the players anyway. But for now, this will do. We're going to teleport players probably in the next video. We can close this up. Do the same in the dismiss button, so add a local script. And in here, we need local replicated storage equals game colon get service replicated storage. And we also need the race system, so local race system is replicate storage colon wait for child race system. And we also need the dismiss remote event, because we're going to fire that from here. So local dismiss re equals race system colon wait for child dismiss. Finally, we get our GUI components. I don't want a function here. We get our GUI components, local button is script.parent, and the local GUI, because we need the GUI, is button.parent. So the button is the script.parent, is the dismiss button, the parent of that is the background, and the parent of that is the GUI. Now we can say button.mouse button one click, colon connect, function, dismiss re colon fire server, passing in the GUI. Because if you remember, inside of our RaceSystem script, when we call the dismiss remote event, we take the GUI, we have a parameter here for the GUI. We also have one for the player. The player is automatically passed through, so we don't need to worry about it. Whenever we fire the server from the client, the player is automatically passed through as an argument. So we don't need to add player. If we added player here, we'd get an error. Just leave it out. We only need to pass the GUI in, which is the GUI we're going to destroy. That is it. So now let's test the GUI. So I'm going to do another local server with 2 players. Alright, so the timers have both appeared. Let me just clear this out. I just want the output of it visible. So for player 2, which is what I'm using here, I'm going to click join and the buttons disappear. And for player 1, I'm going to hit dismiss and the whole thing disappears. So that is working perfectly. And now when the timer reaches 1, it will just stop, as we've already tested, but it won't be visible to this player. So it stops at 1, and that's it. Perfect, it's working. Again, as I explained last video, if it doesn't work, check the outputs on both the player 1 and player 2 here. Any red messages are errors. If you still don't see anything, go to the server tab, which will also open up on a local server, and look for errors in there. There is nothing in there either, so we should be good. There are still a few parts of this prompt that haven't been implemented yet. For example, the prompt will not disappear when the timer gets to 0 seconds. We'll implement this very soon, but that is it for this video. The next video will be out 4 days after this one, so make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss an upload. Please consider joining our Discord server. The link is in the description, where we are trying to build a community of future developers. You can ask for programming help, help others, or just chat there too. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.